Okay, I think we'll get started. I am Pamela Hughes, who runs the Friends program at the Institute, and I'm delighted to welcome you. I'd like to thank all of you for being here and to thank our Friends Chair, Rob Hillis, who has kindly agreed to introduce our speaker this evening, David Lang. So Rob, I turn it over to you.
Good evening, I'm Rob Hillis, as you were forewarned, Chair of the Friends of the Institute, and welcome to the inaugural event of the Friends Fall Virtual Program Series. While we would much prefer to gather in person, the enthusiasm expressed by each of you by joining us this evening demonstrates the Friends' desire to remain intellectually engaged with the Institute and its scholars. What better way to start off the year than to hear from artist-in-residence David Lang with a preview of the Institute's 2020-21 concert series and artist salons. A professor of music composition at the Yale School of Music, David began his appointment as the Institute's artist-in-residence in July 2016. He holds degrees from Stanford University and the University of Iowa, and received the DMA from the Yale School of Music in 1989. In 2008, he was awarded the prestigious Pulitzer Prize for his piece, The Little Match Girl Passion, which the New Yorker called one of the most original and moving scores of the year. His music has been performed by major musical, dance, and theatrical organizations throughout the world, including the Santa Fe Opera, the San Francisco Symphony, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Kronos Quartet, So Percussion and Orchestra, the Nederland Dance Theater, and the Royal Ballet. David's recent work, Prisoner of the State, premiered at the New York Philharmonic in June 2019, and he earned Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for his score of Paolo Sorrentino's film, Youth. David also co-created the Mile Long Opera, which brought together 1,000 amateur singers over 5 days in 2018 for free performances on New York City's High Line. Well known as the co-founder and co-artistic director of New York's legendary music festival, Bang on a Can, Lang was Musical America's Composer of the Year for 2013 and held Carnegie Hall's Richard and Barbara Debs Chair in Composition for the 2013-14 season. In addition to curating the Edward T. Cohn Concert Series during his appointment at the Institute, Lang is pursuing his own creative work. David, the Friends are beyond pleased that you have taken the time this evening to discuss the theme of virtuosity for the 2020-21 concert season, which explores mastery, meaning, and experience, and to tell us about the exciting series of artist salons you have planned. Please join me in welcoming David.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. I would like to point out that two of the pieces that you mentioned, the Mile Long Opera and my opera Prisoner of the State, were actually composed in my little apartment on Von Neumann at the Institute. So in addition to being the artist in residence, I'm also working. I'm just like everybody else. I'm getting my work done, and I'm incredibly grateful to the Institute for giving me the opportunity to do it. So thank you so much. Those of you who saw some of our concerts last season know that we had a topic chosen for—
I'm listening to my—
I think someone's microphone is on, so I don't know, but and whoever's microphone is on, it's very funny. But anyway, so the topic for last season, this season, and the next season are all the same. You know, one of the great things about curating music for this group is that I know that people are coming to more than one concert. So that my idea was that all the concerts would relate to each other on a larger topic. And that topic for last year, this year, and next year is different definitions of virtuosity. So what is virtuosity? Normally, when we think of virtuosity, we think it's about someone wiggling, their fingers really fast, or writing something that's really hard and then standing and playing it. And that's definitely virtuosic. But really, that kind of difficulty and that kind of performance is part of a larger category. And that category is about music, which wears its problem on its outside. And the whole point as a composer and the whole point of a performer is to present what the problem is, and then to show you, composer and performer, overcoming that problem. So this kind of way of moving your fingers very quickly is one way that happens, but there are other ways. Last year we had a concert where there was a piece that was very short and a piece that was very large, because composers were saying, I'm going to make the length of my piece the most important thing that you notice when you pay attention to this piece. So, and we had other things like that. So all the concerts on this year also have to do with this topic. I would like to say, before I get into what we're going to see this year, that I had a totally different season programmed. As you know, we had concerts from the spring canceled when everything fell apart due to COVID. And I had this year programmed as well for things for ensembles and musicians that we could see live. And so very quickly, I had to switch everything out and try to find things that would make sense to show you online. And I'm really excited about the program that we have, and all the things that were supposed to happen this year have now been rescheduled for next year. And inshallah, we will have them live next year as well. The first concert we're going to have on October 17th is a cellist named Maya Beiser, who's an Israeli-American cellist. She actually did a salon at the Academy a few years ago where she talked about her growing up in a kibbutz in Israel and how she became a cellist, and she talked a little bit about her art. One of the reasons why I thought she would be very interesting for this series is because what she does is a kind of technological virtuosity. So she specializes in a kind of music where she pre-records many versions of herself, and she plays along in chorus with herself. So she accompanies herself with already recorded versions of some other aspect of herself. So every single piece that she's going to be doing a piece by Bach that she has arranged for many cellos at the same time, one cello live, many cellos on tape. She's going to be doing a piece by the English composer John Tavener. I'm going to show you a piece that she's doing by an American composer, Osvaldo Golijov. And she's going to be doing, as her last piece, a piece by the composer Steve Reich for 8 cellos called Cello Counterpoint, which is a piece that she commissioned and premiered in Carnegie Hall and has toured all over the world. And this piece has actually become a staple of cellists who do this kind of thing. So now I'm gonna, if the technology will allow me, I'm gonna play you just a few minutes of her playing this piece, Marielle, for multiple cellos. It's one cello live and many cellos pre-recorded. And this was on this very prestigious series, the Tiny Desk concerts from National Public Radio. So let's see if this works. That's just a little taste of Marielle by Asfaldo Galeoff. As you can see, she's a very emotional player, and this is music that it's amazing that she can get 4 versions of herself to emote at exactly the same time. But that's one of the technological difficulties of this piece, is how to record something so that you can take advantage of all the different places where all the parts of you overlap. You have to figure all that out. But one of the reasons why I thought it would be a really wonderful thing to have on this particular program is because in this time of Zoom performances, she is able to bring many versions of herself, something larger than just seeing a soloist play. So I thought that that would be really interesting. And she will be appearing from her own living room in Riverdale, New York. That's the first concert we have. That's October 17th. It's a Saturday night. Okay. The next concert is a totally different kind of virtuosity. The next, I was looking for something about a virtuosic imagination. And then I realized that there are composers who work entirely improvisatorily. And so the point of a piece of music is that it's a kind of spontaneous virtuosity. It's the imagination of something. You do something, you respond to it, you hear it, you build a giant structure right before your eyes. You see everything happen right as the player sees it, the audience sees it at exactly the same time. So one person who's an amazing pianist is a person who came out of the jazz world named Matthew Shipp. He's a composer in New York. And he's someone who started in the jazz world, and then I don't actually know exactly how to describe where his music is now. But the thing that's really amazing is I bought a record of his years ago that I really enjoyed, a piano solo record, and I told him, you know, I really enjoyed this record. He said, it's improvised. I made it up. And I couldn't believe it because it was something that had a straight line from start to finish. So he's going to be doing an entire hour-long piece for us when he comes, called The Piano Equation. And here's a little, the beginning of a little documentary about him, which will show you some of what he's going to be doing and actually let you hear him explain it himself.
Jazz.
At the point of modernism, where you have both, say, Bud Powell and Monk, there's a school, a whole branch of pianists that come out of that kind of took the music in a different direction altogether. Randy Weston, Mal Waldron, Cecil Taylor, and Andrew Hill. You can call that like a black mystery school of pianists. I can't say what exactly the mystery is, other than the fact that they kind of approach the piano in a kind of classic way. Jazz as a whole is a mystery language. If you look at how society accepts it or uses it, and you know, I mean, it's cool to be jazzy. Jazz is used in films. It's used in a lot of ways, but it's not a general part of everyday society now. So I think just being a jazz musician, you know, is enough of a mysterious element to begin with.
So you can hear that he comes out of the jazz world, but he's not in it any longer, and yet he decides how close and how far away he's going to come to it. It's sort of how he makes his decisions while he plays. One of the things that's really exciting for me about this concert is that even though this is going to be live streamed, it's going to be on Zoom. So you will see it on your computer, but it will be broadcast from Wolfenson Hall, from the beautiful piano that we have in Wolfenson Hall. So that concert is the 21st of November. Okay, Saturday. Okay, the next concert is a concert in the spring. It's the 20th of March, also Saturday. This is a woman who began as a singer and as an electronic artist, Pamela Z. And she decided that she would use technology to accompany herself. So using a kind of technology, the kind of technology about magnetism and electricity in space, which governs the theremin, which is an instrument we know. She uses that technology to trigger samples on her computer and all sorts of other incredible technological gear. So we will see what she does here. She's actually an amazing singer, but she uses this, a lot of times she uses electronic objects which are on her body to extend who she is and use the technology to make something larger than herself. So here's a little excerpt from her. So you see the technology of what she is doing is really amazing. So it's kind of, you know, a lot of times what she does is she puts these objects around where what triggers them is a kind of choreography of where her hands go, what she looks like, how her body moves, how she lives in space. So it's, you know, technologically kind of astonishing and also really beautiful. So the last concert, which fingers crossed is going to be taking place live in Wolfenson in a reduced capacity. What that means, we don't know yet because we don't know what the health of humanity will be in April. But April 23rd and 24th, we are going to have this very exciting young string quartet, the Jasper String Quartet, and they are going to be playing some Beethoven. So they're going to be playing a piece, a very short piece by young composer Shelley Washington, who is a doctoral student at Princeton. It seems like Princeton University has a great music school, and there are all these great composers there, so it's nice to bring someone in. But the big piece here is the Opus 131, one of the very last string quartets that Beethoven wrote. The C-sharp minor string quartet. You know, these are regarded as some of the greatest pieces that Beethoven ever wrote and the greatest string quartets ever. This piece is over 40 minutes long. It's in 7 movements, and many people consider this to be, you know, one of the greatest things that Beethoven ever did, believe it or not. So all of these pieces at the end of his life, he wrote all of his last string quartets at the same time. So the ordering of them is very unclear, and the numbering is unclear. They all have themes which go into each other. It's really like the last 6 string quartets that he have are all sort of like a combined essay about all the places that string quartets could possibly go, the things they could become if they were larger than what he had inherited. What he inherited was, of course, you know, the short, compact, well-disciplined string quartets of Haydn and Mozart. I'm going to play you a little bit from one of these well-disciplined string quartets. This is one of the very first string quartets he ever wrote. This is 25 years earlier than the C-sharp minor quartet, but I don't have a recording of the Jasper String Quartet playing that. I don't have a video of them, so I'm going to show you a video of them playing Beethoven's, one of his very early string quartets. One of the other things that's really beautiful, I think, about these last string quartets is that Beethoven didn't hear them. So Beethoven, in addition to being deaf, of course, famously deaf, these are pieces, some of which were premiered after he died. And so a lot of composers reacted to them. Their combination of listening to them was a combination of appreciation for the music and a kind of grief about what they have lost, you know, about the Pathbreaker, which opened up these incredible things and was already gone by the time they heard them. So, so there's something really kind of magical and incredible and really virtuosic in the kind of architectural imagination for how that string quartet works. This is an early piece of Beethoven, just to let you know that Beethoven is happening, and also to let you see how great the Jasper String Quartet is. So that's a little taste of early Beethoven, and you can see that these are excellent players. This quartet is really fantastic. Um, I wish we could hold on to the memory of the string quartet when we get a chance to hear this piece in April, to hear the C-sharp minor string quartet, because all the things which make this so gracious and easy and understandable, that the phrases are organized, that there's this kind of question and answer, there's support and harmony and accompaniment. All of those very well-defined areas of understanding music are blurred. All those boundaries are blown apart by the time we get to the C-sharp minor. There's just a melody that everyone needs to be part of. You can't tell who's in charge. Things last as long as they last, not in regular 4 or 8 measure bars. It's just the scope of the ways in which a string quartet and the possibilities for a string quartet have been blown apart is incredible. So try to remember how beautiful this was when you come back in April to hear how beautiful this next string quartet is. So these are the 4 concerts for this season. In addition to this, I'm curating a series of people writing books on culture. And I haven't thought of a snappy title yet, but I hope by Thursday, which is the first of these, I will have come up with a snappy title. Right now, I'm just calling it Book Chat, but maybe by Thursday, it will be something better than that, I hope. I thought that a lot of people are writing books which are interesting, and authors are not able to go on international book tours now, so it actually makes people very happy to come and talk to us. So the first thing on October 1st is we're going to be having a reading by this author, Frank Snowden. So Frank Snowden is a professor emeritus in medical history at Yale. And I know him also because he's done a lot of work in terms of medical history of Italy and things that happen in Italy. And that's where I've run into him, but I've also run into him at Yale as well. And this book, I know that there's not much good that has come out of the pandemic. So I feel bad saying that anything good could come out of it, but if anything good did come out of it, it was that he published this book at the end of last year, and after the pandemic started, this became a bestseller. Because this is a book that's looking about how pandemics in history, epidemics in history, have shaped our society, our politics, and also our culture. So he is going to be talking about this book, talking about his current research, which is about how COVID is changing us. And I'm not totally sure exactly what he's going to be doing, but this is a really interesting book, and I recommend it. The next book, this is a book that only came out 2 weeks ago, and this is a conversation that we're going to have on the 5th of November. So Alex Ross is the music reviewer for The New Yorker, and I think it's safe to say that he is the most influential music critic in America working right now. This is a very beautiful book. It only came out 2 weeks ago. I'm not finished with it yet, so I can't tell you how it ends. I mean, I know Wagner dies in it, but other than that, it's not so much about Wagner and the music, but it's about Wagner and the effect of Wagner. So it's about the reaction to Wagner and about the interpretation, the misinterpretation in culture of what Wagner meant then and what Wagner means now. So he will do a reading from this book, and he will be happy to answer your questions. He's unbelievably erudite, and he's been working on this topic for 10 years now. So it's going to be a really great talk. Then we have a lecture on December 3rd, which is Emily Wilson, who is the translator of the Odyssey. So this is one of the most beautiful versions and translations of the Odyssey. It's translated into totally plain spoken English and beautiful plain spoken English. I have to say, when this book came out, I battle tested it on my children by reading it to them out loud for many, many hours. Because of course, Homer was was an oral tradition. So she is going to read on December 3rd to us from her new upcoming and as yet uncompleted and of course unpublished translation of the Iliad. So that's going to be super fun. And then the last is something which is unscheduled, but it will happen in the spring. This was something that was going to be happening live. This was going to be something we had scheduled in March that was canceled when things had to go remote. And so there's a chance that maybe we will be able to do this thing live in the spring sometime. If not, it will be remote. Claudia Rankine is going to be coming to talk about her new work. And this is one of my favorite books by Claudia Rankine. It was actually given to me by my son, who is a poet. And this is a book which is sort of everything we imagine that a poet could accomplish in our society. It's social criticism, it's memoir, it goes back and forth between being things which are clearly in the poetry world and things that are clearly in the essay world. It's something which is very timely because it's examining herself and our society. And she's an amazing writer, an amazing reader, and an amazing thinker. And I have to say, that's all I got. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
David, thank you so much. We, as David said, he's happy to take questions. And if you would like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and speak out, or you can raise your hand. All questions welcome. You can use the chat function, or you can raise a virtual hand as well. Sorry, I'm not sure I can see everyone. So.
If you don't have a question, I can just sing something probably.
That would be pretty nifty, actually.
Oh, you haven't heard me sing.
Yes, Daniela.
Could you please sing something?
Well, I don't know what I should sing. Next.
David, could you talk a little bit just about, I mean, you talked about your own work and that, you know, you have been able to compose, that this pandemic is actually, you know, you're used to being on your own, but how you have seen it impact, you know, the world of music. I mean, obviously we all know, we just heard the Metropolitan Opera is closed for the whole coming year. And
yeah, it's actually really tragic on a lot of levels. You know, I mean, the most apparent one is that people who depend on playing music for each other for a living can't make a living. So people who require performance and sell tickets and they need the money in order to keep going are not going to be keeping going. So the Metropolitan Opera, which is probably the most successful fundraising organization in classical music in America, that they are having trouble should tell you something about what is going on in the world, you know. But I think the bigger problem is, you know, kind of more philosophical and which is that we all became musicians because we had a desire to make something and share it.
Mm.
And so we had this desire to be part of this kind of circuit where I make something, I show it to you, I share it with you, I see your response, and we have a bond. And so that kind of very human thing where people are used to making direct connections, that's what our community is based on, and that's what our sense of self is based on. So the number of musicians who I think are terribly depressed at this moment is it's larger than just my life is difficult, or I can't go out, or I can't make money, or I can't do the things I used to do. The reason why we became musicians was to make this bond. Mm. And when you can't make this bond, it becomes hard to remember that you ever could make this bond. And it makes it hard to have faith that you will ever be able to make the bond again in the future. So that to me is the more interesting thing, is that I never realized until this moment just how connected to that circuit I really was. I always had this imagination. I'm a composer. I can be shut up in an elevator and do my work. And, I can be in a tiny little location and that would be fine. I just need my laptop and to write my music, and that's fine. And I realize now just how important the completion of that circuit is for my sense of well-being. And I think everybody else in my field is the same way.
Yeah. Thank you. Vicki.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not. The presentations you've selected for this year are obviously virtuosic in a variety of ways. How did you select these? And can you tell us something about ones perhaps you did not select?
Well, it's interesting because, I run this music festival, Bang on a Can, right? And so Bang on a Can started in 1987 with my two friends, Michael Gordon and Julia Wolf. And we have been doing concerts all over the world, and we do these marathon concerts, and we are also teachers. So we have a music school at Mass MoCA that we've been doing for the last 18 years, and we've educated lots of people. And what we realized was, as soon as the pandemic started, we were in the epicenter of this network of musicians, all of whom looked to us for emotional support, but also for employment. So we realized there are many, many people who are going to sort of lose all their money and lose all their rent, and if we don't jump in and help them. So we started doing online marathons. So basically every 6 weeks, we've done a solo concert, and we have another one coming up on the 18th of October. And these are just solo concerts where we, get 20 or 25 people, and, they play for 5 minutes in their homes. And it's actually really great because you get to see what everyone's kitchen or laundry room looks like. And it's really, kind of fun. And because of that, you realize what the technical requirements are for doing a good concert on Zoom, right? It's really hard to do something that looks good. And in our format, for 5 minutes, you can be in anyone's room, and the quality, if it's not that good, well, the next person's quality will be better, right? The next person's internet connection will be better. The next person's, microphone will be higher quality. What I realized when I started looking for things to happen here was that I needed to be guaranteed that the people I worked with were technologically very sophisticated. Mm. So I had to find people who, as part of their own personal practice, had an incredibly high level of equipment already at home. So that, because there are lots of great musicians who are not set up to record because, your life as a musician is mostly on the road. playing in front of people in other places. So who is prepared to do a great broadcast quality concert from your own home? It's kind of unusual. So that made me think, okay, there are only a few people that I know who can do this. So I started, asking, and of course, Maya and Pamela Z were two of the first people that I asked, because I know that they are ready. I know that they have gear, and I know that they're technologically very savvy. So some of the other concerts that didn't happen, like in the spring, we had this concert that was canceled that was from last April, which is one of the greatest concerts that I've ever seen, and I really hope that we get it back, which is the medieval musician Benjamin Bagby, who performs Beowulf. So he has memorized the entire Beowulf in Anglo-Saxon, and he accompanies himself the way a bard recounting the story of Beowulf would have done in Anglo-Saxon times, which is on a 4-string lyre. And so he sings and declaims this incredible story, and basically he yells at you in Anglo-Saxon for 90 minutes, and it's the most exciting thing I've ever seen. I've seen it 3 times. That's how great it is. And I haven't understood a word of it yet. But of course, that's something that you have to see. You have to be there. And he lives in France, and so it's hard for him to travel. And so all of these things sort of fell through. Another one, a concert, there's an amazing musician in America named Michael Harrison. There's a kind of, there's a crazy guru composer in America named Lamont Young. I don't know if any of you have run into him, but he's regarded as being one of the founders of minimalism. And he wrote an incredible piece many, many years ago called The Well-Tuned Piano. And it's a piano that's completely tuned. It's retuned in just intonation, which is a kind of more natural way that the piano works. The reason why he could do that is because his piano tuner was also a great composer named Michael Harrison, who was a specialist in how to retune this piano and to make this incredible sound world. And so he is somebody who has redesigned this world so the notes that a piano plays do not sound like piano notes. They don't even sound like Western harmony, because the piano has been retuned in this beautiful, but actually much more attuned to the natural vibrations that we see in our environment, the overtone series. So, so it's a beautiful, beautiful way of making a piano. That just wouldn't work on Zoom. It just wouldn't work. No one's computer microphone and computer speaker is sophisticated enough to hear how amazing that is going to be in the live hall. So it's that kind of thing, it's like I really want to make sure that the things that we do on this size screen are things that can take advantage of it and don't lose anything, or don't lose too much at least, from being shared this way.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. I see Remy has his hand raised.
Hi, yes. Thank you very much for the beautiful talk. Sort of going off of this theme of the COVID, and I apologize for going on about this, but one of the things that I've seen in many facets of life is that it's sort of accelerating the processes that are already in place. Mm. And one of the things you can think about is the transition for musicians and artists into newer forms of finding revenue. Is this a thing that you're seeing at all?
Well, every system that exists for musicians, it seems like every innovation has figured out how to do it by paying musicians less. So everything that takes advantage of our great technology, so streaming, I have a piece on Spotify which has been streamed over 8 million times, and I think I can, buy a cup of coffee or two with that, So, I mean, basically every innovation has figured out how to make money off of these things. And artists are the thing which is the sliding scale. So the fixed costs are what they are. So there's a huge move afoot now at this point where people are refusing to play music online because music online can be shared and the sharing of it comes without any extra revenue to the musicians. So I'm very sympathetic to this. And so at Bang in a Can, one thing that we do is we make sure that, that we are not rebroadcasting our marathons. Our marathons are just live, and we ask people to contribute, and everyone is paid. We don't have tickets, but if you would like to buy a ticket, you can. Of course, anyone can watch for free, but everyone has to be paid. But for us, it's a moral choice, and most of the people in the field of streaming music are not really making that same moral choice. But I think it's sort of like the Uberification of the way art is treated. It's sort of like we're the places where you can cut corners. I do think one interesting thing that's happening, which is not about the money, but about the art itself, is I do think that when the pandemic began, people looked at what you present online as being a reminder of what we lost. So what we presented, what we could have presented live, we are now going to figure out how to do a simulacrum of that for you on this, kind of more impoverished site, online. And what I find now, which is happening, which I think is really interesting and is probably the future, is that people are figuring out how to do things possibly online that they could not possibly have done live. How to take advantage of this. There are now Zoom operas, which are conversations between various different characters in your, where you're told to be in the grid, right, in the gallery view. And there are people singing and communicating with each other, and that's part of the technology. I have a ridiculous, insane project which can only exist online, which I cannot tell you yet because it's not finished or announced. But I think that this is really where I've seen a lot of really great animated work, a lot of great interactive work that's saying, if we can't have the live experience, if this is our format, how do we make music which belongs to this format more honestly and more inherently than the live experience? And that, I think, is really kind of exciting. Who will pay for that? I don't have a clue.
Thank you. David, thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for being here. We'll see some of you on Thursday evening when Frank Snowden will give the first artist salon, and by all means join us. Keep your eyes open for the announcement of Maya Beiser, the Maya Beiser concert. She really is tremendous. So David, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Back. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.